Hi everyone. My name is Brian Koch, the program leader of communication design. Welcome all of you to attend this seminar. I do think that you're probably very interested in this program. For the coming 1 hour, I'm going to present or describe what is communication design all about. Probably you have some, at least you have some idea. So my part, I hope that I can run 30 minutes. And why? Because we have two guests. We have two senior year students. They also like to share their experience to all of you. So the third part, we have Q&A sections. If you, along the line there, if you have any question, please feel free to leave your question to us. So in the last section, few of us, we will answer your questions. So let's start. So here is communication design. Probably you have some frustration. Probably you have confused that, oh, what is communication design all about? Probably you had heard that visual communication, advertising. So you still struggle with subject or with program you want to apply. So I think for this part, I would like to address more. So to begin with, I'd like to show you these pictures to describe what is communication design all about. So if you look at these pictures, a little girl actually is dancing in a class. I don't know what class it is, but actually the little girl performing a flower, okay? But if you look at the audience, they have a different interpretations, and probably very disappointed for the little girl because she tried very hard to perform, to dance like a flower, but the audience actually, they saw it in a different way. Some interpret like a fish, some interpret like a cat. So I think some problem actually you can see now. Actually, when we did something, we thought that my message definitely my audience can understand or fully accept or fully perceive. But in our reality, that is not the true story. That's why we need to make sure that our message successfully transmit or convey to our intended audience. So this is all about the program. So I like to, one of my favorite quotes stay from Foscara. He is a design scholar. So he stated that every piece of communication design arrays from the lead to communicate a special message and to obtain a desired response. So I find that this is really true to talk about my program, our communication design program. So we definitely need to understand the user lead. So we have to identify the lead from them. And then we need to send a message, a specific message to them. And then they trigger them to respond, and so that they take action. For example, if you have some designing a poster and the poster talking about the musical event, and then the audience look at the poster and then take action to buy a ticket. So this is a simple example to talk about the effective communications. And to go on to continue talking about communication, most of us maybe we just focus on designing the visual presentation. We can do, or we can draw a very good illustration. We spend a lot of our time to do the visual presentation, but at the end they may have different interpretations. And that's why we need to communicate with our people. We definitely need to communicate right message to our intended audience. Particularly, we have to understand the context. So design is not just visualize or beautify objects or beautify things, but we have to think deeper why and who the audience is, and why they need your product or why they need your design to achieve their task. So all we need to do is think about all those questions. So that's why as a senior year student, we expect that they spend their time, the 2 years time, to investigate how visual textual languages. So this including typography, imagery, interactivity, and time. So because they really play a critical, substance in communication design. So in order to, clarify information, because definitely we bombard a lot of, information. So how we going to structure them so that your audience are able to, understand. So evoking emotion, again, so we are not just design visual object, but we like to trigger their emotional level. So to make them quiet, to make them happy, to make them, sensational. So those are the emotional aspects we have to consider. And inducing actions, again, so if you perceive messages, but what's next your user to do? So they have to take action. How are you going to induce the action? And engendering change, of course, this is the ultimate goal. So this is not just a physical visual artifact, but your design has to, make the world change. So in order to, further elaborate the previous slide descriptions or messages, so I'd like to present more example for you so that you can further understand our program. So for example, in this assignment or project, so the student were asked to design a wayfinding system for PMQ. So in the first place, we are not just start with the visual form, but we need to go further. We did a lot of primary research. Then you can see that we are not just do things in the studio or in the classroom. We ask our students to go out to check, to do a lot of observations. So this is what we call primary research. And the other thing, we also ask our students to do a lot of secondary research. So this is also important. So, so we understand that your project is not the first project. I mean, it's not the first that you think. So definitely some previous work has done before. Then you have to realize what's wrong or what's bad things that you can adopt or you can borrow. So that's why secondary research, senior students, they need to read a lot of articles, take a lot of reference from other design firms or designer, so that they can equip a lot of knowledge about the projects. And another project talking about health communication. So again, aging population is a serious problem around the world. So how are you going to design object for them so that they can manage their medicine, they can manage their life? So again, this is also important to get closer to your intended users. So we did design not just on your own imagination. We have to ask our students to collect as much as data as possible. So one of the methods that you can see, students have to go to their home to do home visit. The student also need to develop a lot of prototype and then we need to ask the intended user to give feedback on their design. So that the student actually not just get the feedback from tutor, but most of the time they have to get the feedback from their intended user. So that you can see we actually co-design with our audience in the very beginning, so that student can grab as much as useful feedback from them. So here's some examples. You can see it's quite different from what you learn. Probably the student will share their experience. It's really painful. I know that this is quite unlike what you learn because they have to submit a progress report or user test report. So whatever they did or wherever they went out for home visit, they have to come up with a list of detailed information about the user, about the home they live, how the frustration they're encountering. So all this stuff they have to transform into a textual report. So this is one of the example. You can see the class activity. So students were grouped into a group of 3 to 4 students. So they have to collaborate to design projects. So you can see it's not an individual hero. There's no such thing. So you have to collaborate, you have to work hand in hand with your classmate. So I think it would be good because you can share your knowledge, you can share your idea with your classmate. I think this is also very important in the learning journey. So you can see a lot of discussion. This is the daily activity you can see from their class. So they have to build a lot of chart and analyze a lot of data. So this is posted. And this is the output. So of course, output is also, the final output is also very important, but I think we more concerned about the process. I think the development. This is also important. So as you can see, this is the award-winning project. So it was done by year 3 students, and this is the prize. So I think the student also, they were very happy to receive bronze from the ADC Design Award. So again, we treat our design project not just a school project. I think if your design has very social, valuable for the society, I mean, so I think this is your design can contribute to your society, not just for getting an A grade or B grade. So I think this is more meaningful. So you can see our CD graduates. One of the example, mostly, she actually was our alumni. Of course, after graduate, she set up her own business, and she developed a lot of useful product for different kind of users. I think this is also very important to contribute your design to societies. And other examples, and this student actually, her final year project focus on dyslexia. I think this is very important, as could be a very hot topics at that time, but I think how you're going to cope with a different problem is also important. So a student actually developed the whole apps for people who has a dyslexia, learning difficulty in read or to recognize a word. I think this is also another meaningful project from communication design program. And another project, again, it's quite niche. So this student, she has developed a system, a whole range of fonts for airport wayfinding system. So this student actually studied a wide range of Chinese typeface. She also identified the problem because this typeface, she find there a lot of light box wayfinding. The character is not is not clear enough to see because a lot of backlit or backlight gone through from the back. I think that the stroke of the character is not really easy to see. So that's why she like to develop completely a new font for this specific wayfinding system. So here's some examples. And I just flip through it. So for our program, okay, so because you are going to apply for senior year place, so which means that we expect that you already have the first 2 years kind of learning experience. And for coming 2 years, we focus on different training. So for the first year, we have some surface learning, and we also have some general subject that you need to fulfill. So in semester, you need to fulfill 40 credits, and it's really tough because I think one of the factors that you can imagine that because probably your previous school, you spend a lot of time training in craftsmanship, for example. But here, it may be a different culture. We require you to do a lot of writing, reading, presentations, and sharing, idea exchange. So that's kind of things. So I think for the semester 1 is quite tough for senior year student. But after that, semester 2, it become, I don't want it to become easier, but I think you get used to it and you know how to, cope with multiple subjects. So in semester 2, I think the main focus, we focus on experience design, okay? In semester 1, we focus on information design. So you can see in your first year, we 2 major domains that you have to take, okay? Information studio and experience design, okay? So for your last year, which means year 2, so then you need to do your final year project, okay? So it's quite short, so but I think it's really fruitful, I'm sure. So I think these 2 years that you can learn different things. And on top of this table, you can see we provide a wide range of electives. So you feel free to take 3 out of them. So based on your interest, based on the training that you want to equip, so we provide a wide range of electives. So to go further, okay, instead of textual slide, I think it would be good to show a lot of pictures. I think for the rest of the slide that you can see a lot of pictures. So you can see here, you can tell from the face, right? It's a happy face around. So because they were doing a summer study trip. So of course you can join our summer study trip. Usually we in the past we went to different cities in Europe. Okay, this is the hot place. Students learn a lot from them. So so apart from learning, so students were invited to visit a different location, for example, museum, design schools, and students were asked to do a lot of things with the local students. So I think it's a very good experience for students to to exchange design knowledge with the foreigners. And the other subject called summer internships. So I think this is also valuable subjects because you are able to learn not just in the school environment, but in the real life environment. So you need to take 6 to 8 weeks to work in a design firm. So in order to facilitate or strengthen your competency, I think this is a good opportunity to apply your design knowledge in the real life environment. So I think your art directors, your supervisor will lead you to do a real project instead of school project. So this is a list of the company they join internship. So we provide a long list of the company, design firms that you can apply. Some design firm that you can apply overseas. So in the past few years, some students interested in, first they probably interested in Europe. But I think in the latest years, they apply design firm in Taiwan, design firm in Bangkok, more Asian regions. I think you can see a lot of students, they have a different interests or they enjoy a different cultures in different cities. And here you can see in the real environment, students not just design a poster or catalog. I think it depends on the design firm that you want to do the intern. So this one of the student, she worked for museums, she works for gallery. And of course, some students need to do commercial design work, okay, for example, like this. So it really depends on student interest or that which types of design firm they like to apply. So so I just flip through it, and you can have a quick look. Of course, some students interested in doing emoji like that. And for this case, a student went to Japan, Tokyo, to do internship. So again, of course, most of the time students enjoy life, of course, in different cultures. And they also learn a lot of practical design method or design, how design problem can be identified. So the company can walk through all the things so that the student actually really learn a lot from the real environment. So logo design, the fashion design, and of course they need to come up with some report. So every student after finish the internship, they need to submit the report so that you can see how enjoy they work for the local design in overseas. So one of the important thing, of course, to learn the local cultures, to share your aspect to a different people. I think this is also one of the variable learning preference from it. And another example is experience design, as I mentioned in the curriculums. So what is it? I think in the past we asked students to come up with a theme. Okay, so each year they have a different theme. Okay, so in this case they come up with a border. So this is is also interesting topics. So students they initiate topics and they need to find a lot of information in order to create a proper exhibition, for example. So experience design is not just talking about user experience on the interface environment, but also in a 4D environment. You have to also need to consider how where the user or where's the visitor to come to the exhibitions. So how you exhibit your object in the space is very important. So in the semester 2, you are able to learn a lot of this kind of knowledge in this. And students also need to come up with some artwork, okay, for the exhibition based on the theme. Okay, this is examples. This is also examples. So this location actually in our SD towers. So we have some space for the student to organize their work in a specific area. So again, you are able to manage not just visual form, but I think the spatial arrangement. So this is also interesting project for color. So I think another year, the theme is color. So blue color and green color, okay. So I think this is very important. And cooperative project is also interesting subjects because you have to collaborate with the client as well as other students from other disciplines. For example, product design discipline and E&I, I mean interior design and environmental design. So you have to work with them, okay, so that you can learn from each other. So a cooperative project is also important subject that you can learn. And you can see students actually group together, they did a lot of brainstorming and they enjoy to share the idea with each other. At the end, they have to come up with final solutions. So this is also examples. You can see so a lot of sharing, a lot of discussions, a lot of development. And at the end, you have to present your final piece to your clients. So I think it's also good to train your presentation skills and also train to how you defend your design solution. I think this is also very important. And students also always invite to go outside to visit a different design firm or different types of design related company. For example, Monotype is also one of the top Chinese typography or typography firms. So city student was always invited to visit the company so that the designer, typographer, they can describe the whole process of developing new Chinese text. So students are able to ask questions or witnesses the whole process of development. I think this is also important. So Chinese typography. And the other thing is students also were required to develop custom made typeface. So this is quite experimental. So this is one of the examples. Students were asked to do a logo or typographic for the movie poster or for the movie. So this is the whole process. So again, you have to record all the process development. So it is a very important part so that you can communicate well with your tutor and your client. So this is the end result. Another piece. And Western typography too is also very important in communication design too. So this is some examples. Students were asked to do a different assignments. So for example, in this case, students were asked to do a catalog for one typical typeface based on the features of the typeface. So which means that students need to further understand the unique features of single alphabets in order to develop a catalog for this typeface. So I think that task is quite interesting. So this is also examples. So you can see, although this task relate to typography, students also need to consider the whole compositions, color, contrast, and legibility, and the reading behavior, so and so forth. So we are not just appreciate the final piece. I think we also need to appreciate the whole process of thinking, or the developments. Okay. So art direction. So you're also able to take these subjects. So this subject is also interesting because you can initiate one brand and revise the brand. Of course, you also need to supervise the whole process. So the visual component and the whole tone and manner, and you also need to collect a lot of data in order to come up with this visual identity. So this is the examples. Okay. And of course, students also like to visit a different firm, and for example, here is the printing company. Okay. For example, now student actually, if you look at this pictures, actually student were taking publication design. So publication design is not just managing the spatial, the layout things, but also talking about the printing effect. So what's the latest, printing ink or printing effect in the market? So students have to know the cutting edge printing technology as well as the printing effect in order to further develop their publication design work. Okay, so this is the printing visit. So the printing operator introduced the some machine already manage replace human force, but I think what's the main difference between them, or what's the main specific printing machine can do specific effect. So the student may be curious about that. And color tone and printing color also very important too. And this is also another subject talking about experimental book design. So students were asked to challenge the traditional form of book. So why book flip from left to right? Why we look the text from top to bottom? So we always challenge the traditional way of presenting a book. So this class actually student to come up with a different idea of doing a book. So and this example is also very interesting because this book actually talking about the smell. Okay, so if a book can present 5 senses, so maybe this is also a topic. So how you deliver instead of visual form, touch, any other sense that we can embed into a book form. So that's why students were asked to provide a different solution. So this is the content inside of the book, and can book become like a human scale form, so that it changed the total experience of reading book. Okay. And the other thing is the book can be a very interesting part. So could be more interactive for students. So I think that's all for my part, because I think that's all for my part. I have more, but I think I have to stop here. So I think I need to leave more time for our student. We have 2 students, Sam and Joyce. I think first I hand over to Sam, right? Sam, you can share your experience to our audience.
Good evening and welcome guys to the information seminar. As Brian did say, I am a student from senior year. So my name is Sam. Samuel is my full name, but you can call me Sam. And hopefully I get to give you sufficient information that you need to prepare yourself during the admissions process. So just to give you a bit more information about myself, I actually came from a community college here in Hong Kong. It's HKU Space, some of you guys know. I studied a higher diploma in visual communication, and the reason why I wanted to introduce this particular information is because you'll start to realize that just because the names seem similar doesn't mean that they're entirely the same. And I'll further elaborate more later in the next few slides. But to start off first, we'll start with the portfolio. So what is a portfolio? So a portfolio is something that shows who you are as a designer, your design approach, process, and results as well. So this particular is my portfolio. It's a bit of an example. I know most of you guys are in your final year, especially at a college, and that can be quite demanding. So the most important thing that I could give advice to you is to start as soon as possible. So the minute the university sends out like the requirements for your portfolio, start as soon as possible. And I kind of, based on my experience, I limited it into 5 different steps. So obviously the first steps is to gather all the works that you've done, select the works that you feel are strongest to you, and show your steps in terms of problem solving and design skills. But the most important part as well is keeping your captions to a minimum. You have to also take into consideration there are like probably 200 plus applicants that are applying for the particular course, and you need to make sure that while it is very important to eloquently express your work through text or through verbal, you need to also make sure that your work is able to speak for itself. And finally, take your time. This portfolio didn't take me 1 or 2 days. This took me probably 2 or 3 weeks, and it had to go through constant refining and constant help and advice from my teacher in my previous year. So this is kind of like a visual representation of like my portfolio strategy. If you look on the right, I kind of made a graph from strong to weak. The portfolio basically started off with a strong work of my own, and then followed by a weaker, and then strong again, and then finally ending with supplementary information. So these particular works my portfolio wasn't designed to just from strong to weak or weak to strong. I wanted to make sure that obviously the audience was always continuously engaged in my portfolio, and I think that's kind of some kind of technique that you could probably apply to your portfolio too. But I'm just saying, if you have your own portfolio, make sure that it's unique and authentic to you as well. In terms of traditional works, you don't necessarily have to provide like sketches, but it would be great to show. But make sure that these particular works are worth showing to them. So yeah, next off is about interview. Oh, interview. I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys are probably nervous or probably anticipating the worst for the interview, but fear not, I'm here. Hopefully through my experience, you get to prepare yourself easily. So to start off, I'll just go with the technical stuff first. So after you've been shortlisted, usually sometime after your portfolio submission, they're going to send you an email. And in that email would have details about the interview, like when it will be, where it will take place, and a specific question that you have to prepare before going to the interview. And you can actually access that question on your online application via e-admission. And then the things you need to prepare, obviously your portfolio, your prepared question, and obviously take a test with your mic and your camera, especially when your interview is online. Make sure that your Wi-Fi is strong as well. And finally, yourself. Don't bring any robot, don't bring anyone else. They always want to see you as a designer and your authentic self. So based on my experience, the interview took around like 15 to 20 minutes. And this is kind of like how my interview went. I'm sure some people have a different experience, but for me, it started off with a self-introduction, a given question, portfolio showcase, and a question and answer section. Try not to spend too much time on the self-introduction, because the self-introduction, they've probably already gone through your basic information. So just keep it brief, short, and then go straight to maybe the given question that they've asked you. And then during your portfolio showcase, you don't have to go in depth with every single project because you have a lot. Just skim through it, and then they'll probably ask you some questions during that time. And during the Q&A session, they're going to ask you to select a specific project that you want to further elaborate. So which leads to the next point where I suggest to choose wisely. In my case, in my interview, I chose this particular work, which is a brand identity project, because I kind of wanted to show my interest in culture and my design abilities and attitudes towards the specific project. Especially as a non-JUPAS student and as someone who doesn't really know much about the Chinese culture, I thought of a way like maybe this could be killing two birds with one stone. So learning more about the Chinese culture would be one aspect, and also learning how to integrate with the Chinese community, because I know that most of my classmates would generally be local, and so I kind of wanted to learn the slangs and everything like that. And this was more about more like an homage to the Hong Kong culture too. And I wanted to show as well that I was quite flexible, and that my designs wasn't just limited to Western designs, because most of my works were quite Western, and I wanted to kind of challenge myself through that. Finally, know what you're applying to. In the interview, it's very important to know what you're applying to, because they will not hesitate to question about whether you know what communication design is. In my case, they actually challenged me, because back in my community college, it was mostly focused on the technicalities and mostly market-based research. And so when they asked me, hey, Sam, your portfolio seems a bit commercial, why don't you take advertising design? For a second, I was a bit shocked, but then at the same time, I knew what I was studying and I knew what I was going to be applying to. And so obviously I responded, but if you want to know what I answered, you can ask me later. Have confidence in your work and yourself as a designer. This is the most important thing that you could do. If you're not going to be confident in your work, then no one will be able to recognize it, and no one would be able to see the effort that you've put into it. And they can actually see that through your interview as well. So here's my experiences. Semester 1 has been quite fun. It's exciting, but obviously due to the pandemic, we've had to do some certain adjustments. If you see in the top row, that's how the studio currently looks like. We're practicing social distancing, but if you see before, I think you've seen in Brian's presentation slide, there's a lot of going on, a lot of action. And then in the bottom, you can see some of examples of what I've done with my group mates. Oh yes, you will be involved in a lot of group projects as well, as Brian did show you before. And then, a lot of people would probably say that, as a senior year student, you're going to be very, very busy. But I actually got the opportunity to participate in helping out the School of Design in some, say, marketing things. Like right now, I'm helping out. So you're not limited. You will still be able to enjoy your university experience here. So yes, communication design so far to me has been absolutely theoretical. It's hands-on and it's quite engaging. You've got such amazing professors who are willing to help you out, especially when you're confused about something, and are very open to whatever ideas or kind of difficulties that you encounter. So here's just a bit of an example of what I've been working on. I'm not showing everything, but these are some of the highlights of my semester. I had to learn a lot about research methodologies and methods and how to be able to perceive and to adapt to certain situations as a communication designer. And as Brian shared earlier, we had to develop this medicine labeling, and that was such a great experience. We've visited certain homes and stuff like that. And in terms of electives, you will be given a wide range of communication design electives, and it's definitely worth exploring. So that's the end of my presentation. Hopefully I get to see you in campus. If I do, say hi. I'm going to be passing it over to my colleague Joyce as well.
So hi everyone, I'm Joyce. Today I'm going to show you how non-JUPAS applicant can get into SD or CD program successfully. So let me introduce myself. I'm a high diploma student graduated from Hong Kong Design Institute and studied in visual communication and majored in brand design. And then I get into SD just last year and studied the communication design and with the senior year admission. And then in the future, I'm planning to becoming a graphic designer and which working in the brand agency, such as working on the brand identity or exhibition. So how to creating a good portfolio for your interview, and there is 5 attributes or some criteria that I think you may include in it. And first of all is the diversity, and which means different types of topic or media into design. And in my portfolio, I tried to involve different types of media to show my design skills, such as the illustration, the packaging design, the photography, to let your work enrich your work in your portfolio. And of course, that's not enough as well, and you need to make some transformation. And there is a variety and variation and further development of the design. And such as in my complex illustration graphic, and I turned it into a more simplified shape or flat art, and to match with my brand identity on the packaging design to make it more simple and match the brand attributes. And then creativity is also important, since the special insights to observe the world and also showed your problem-solving skills. And like my project, one of my projects is I want no more teenagers know the problem of declining of traditional Leon night culture, which is I need to design a festival to talk about the Leon night in Hong Kong. And I tried to involve many design procedures, such as talk about the target group, the insight, and the mood board to create a more whole picture in my project. And also showed some brand attributes and the key sketches, and also about my design concept is important. And I think a lot of you have many sketches, but not to include so many inside of it, and just show the key part is fine. And the end, mock-up photos of design items is suggested to show in the final part of your portfolio to let the interviewer know more about what are your design outcomes at the end. And also, you may suggest to think about the contribution is use your way to creating a better society. And I have represented a brand identity part in a co-design project, and the whole project is carrying a strong belief to promoting the social equality, and there involved many design process, but record anything but not to put anything in the portfolio. And also display my design outcomes such as the logo, color scheme, typeface, and the super graphic in my portfolio. Finally, is the consistency of your layout to show your professional skill towards the design. A neat and systematic layout is needed in your portfolio. And main cover image, which is set a very beautiful whole image of your works to display all design items to doing the cover image for your portfolio. And then the visual image with description. With less description, you can leave some words during the interview and keep it secret. And the layout following the grid system is more professional. So apart from the 5 aspects I mentioned before, and I also want you to think about what is your expectation and your dream after getting into SD and CD program. So let's talk about my current SD life. And I experienced a wayfinding project that I never experienced before. And my project is to design a graphic system information for warehouse. It's a historical building. And I tried to prepare so many primary research, such as a site visiting, comparator analysis, and observation, to have a more enrich my knowledge towards the site, and also conducting the user tests to assess the design feasibility from stakeholders and feedback, and to do modification. And then let's see my design outcomes. And this one of my design outcome is the site map inside the visitor guide. And I want the audience to experience a new atmosphere from the historical building, and I use the simplified structure line style with relevant historical features, and to provide systematic let the visitor to find their way. And other design item is the door plate, and I use the light box concept for supplying the lights for the night activities, and also consider the color by different zoning. And you can see I divide into 3 colors represent different zoning, and show the connection between the space and the graffiti features. And here is the graphic that I inspired from the place and the graffiti, and which can build up the connection and let them transform into united visual graphic. And here is my final presentation board, and I got a lot of fun in this project because it's very interesting and lots of knowledge of information design. And so I think we can work hard together, and that's the end of my presentation. Thank you. And let's get into the Q&A section. Let's welcome Brian and Sam again.
Hi guys. So we've got a couple of questions that you guys have probably asked over the course of the seminar. So the first question that we received was, does CD require a high level of drawing skills of the candidates? What other skills are important to applying for this program? How can we present in our portfolios? So do you guys maybe have any suggestions, pardon me?
Well, I think for the drawing skill, I think this is most of the applicant, they worry about that part. Of course, drawing skills is, I cannot say is not important, but I think we expect that you have some certain level of drawing skills, because if you have some idea, you definitely need to visualize your idea on paper, right? So of course, we don't expect you have a high skills or high level of drawing skill. So otherwise, you won't apply design school, but probably you apply fine art school, right?
Yeah.
So I think you're able to, visualize your idea in drawing. I think that's good enough, okay? So because especially for senior year student, we expect that you already have first 2 year experience. So in our 2 years study, I think we focus on more, presentation skills, thinking skills, critical analysis, skills. So those are the skills that we require you to do it.
And you're asking about how can we present in our portfolios. So actually for my portfolio, there's a specific section where it is a web design. And in that website has say some animation and some videos. So what I did was I sent a link, and also I provided it another link with the video of me explaining my work. You can actually, there's a specific function that you could do with Adobe PDF, and you can actually link your website onto the portfolio, the online portfolio. So yeah, that's basically that.
And I want to add on Sam's comment. I think Sam already give you some tips, but if I add on more information for you, how we can present in your portfolio, I think this is really tricky, okay? So I think you have to, like Sam already mentioned in his sharing, I think it's not 1 day or 2 day jobs. So you have to, plan ahead. So because you have to have some target audience. For example, tutor will select you. Why we select you, okay? So you have to, wisely organize your portfolio. So of course, we like to see a wide range of different media. For example, if you have a drawing, definitely you have to put it in. If you have some graphical design, of course, we like to see. So how are you going to present who you are? So what's the strength that you have? So you have to slightly adjust a bit in order to, piece, or you have to promote who you are. So that you have to think about, I would suggest that you have to look at your portfolio work first. So to consider which is the first one and which is the last one. So you have to plan ahead to present your work.
So we've got another question. Is it good to put my group work in my portfolio since there are not much individual work in the previous years? I think well, I mean, in my aspect, in my experience, like they want to see also your design thinking, not just only about what other people think, because then that would be collective effort. But if you want to include group project, you have to clearly point out what did you do in that group project, what was your responsibilities and your roles. So then that way we can see how you are able to work with different people at the same time. Because while it is very important to work by yourself, we're also being trained to work with different kinds of people as well. So I think that's what
I think this is also very common issues that when we collect all the applicant portfolio. So we can see there's many cases, a different applicant, they show the same project because they work as a team. So that you have to indicate which part you have done and which responsibility that you engage. So you have to be honest, okay? So you have to show, if you show group project, that you have to be careful, okay? You have to clearly state that which part you have done, okay? And which part you're responsible to do, okay? So of course, to avoid this kind of embarrassing kind of, feedback, I think I still recommend you to submit more individual work, okay? So I don't expect, okay, if you were asked to do 10 pieces of your portfolio or of your work, so I don't expect you to submit 10 pieces of group work, right? It can be. So of course you have to show you're talented, right? So somehow group project may not, completely show you're talented. So you have to show other way or other piece. So I think this is also a good chance for us to understand you completely. So that's the point.
Definitely. Are Chinese and English results really important to this subject? I think, I mean, I don't really know how to speak that much Chinese, so I think I'm pretty I think just the most important thing is you're able to eloquently express your work and with clarity. I mean, the subject is taught mainly in English. It's actually taught in English, so being able to present your work in English is quite actually important as well, because there's a lot of reading and writing for you to do. Most of our required reading is in English actually, but then subjects that are out of ST, there are certain things that you have to read that are in Chinese, but in my case I didn't have to encounter any of that. Yeah.
And also this subject is mainly focused on the research base,
Yes.
and which is more, English is the first choice and the Chinese is the second.
Yeah.
And of course, Sam already mentioned that in the whole class activity, or especially for the lectures, we all conduct in English. Sometimes, of course, your classmate, some classmate from overseas, because we have an exchange program. Some exchange students from different countries, they will take 1 to 2 subjects in the semester. Okay, so more likely you are able to communicate in English with them.
Yeah.
And of course, most of the time, I think 19 or 80 to 90% are local students.
Yeah.
But I think each class, you definitely have 2 to 3 foreign students. So.
But don't worry about it, you'll be fine, because I'm pretty much, I'm okay. So they've been very nice. That's mostly really, they're very helpful as well.
Yeah.
So don't worry about that. Yeah. So what is the minimum GPA required to get admitted?
So confirm with the admin staff, I would say 3.0 is the minimum GPA requirement if you would like to apply for our program.
Is semester 3 in the summer holidays? So normally it's June to August, but yeah, normally June to August.
Yeah, so a lot of program or subject they for semester we call semester 3 actually is summer terms. So students were required to basically to do 2 to 3 subjects. Okay, so one is internship. So a lot of internship carry on in the summer period, And the second subject is study trip. So student would use this period to to study overseas or to work, to travel during summer. So I think 2 to 3 subjects you need to take in the summer period. Yeah.
And there's another question. For the overseas internships, are there language courses that are part of the internship?
I think in internship is really student driven. So students have the final option to choose which design firm that they like to work for. So we expect that if student to choose a design firm in overseas, definitely they have a sufficient English ability in order to daily communicate. So of course you can choose local design firm as well as or overseas design firm. Yeah. Okay, question.
What is that?
It's Chinese, so
Oh, it's
I
Chinese.
can.
Okay.
如果以前 DSE 中文或者英文冇3，係咪一定要考翻 IELTS and IGCSE？
個試先至證明翻自己嘅語言能力。
OK，Kathy 係咪 ？Kathy 你有冇答？
係嘅，我哋要考翻嗰個英文試，會 fulfill 嗰個 requirement。
OK，唔該 Kathy。
So how many places per class? Number of applicants last year? I'm not quite sure about that.
I can give you approximate number of applicants. So in general, for the number of applicants, around 200 something applicants per year. So how many places per class? Around 60 to 18 for senior year student. Yeah.
Yeah. There's another question we have. It's, what if I do not have any experience or real products of my designs? By real products, are you meaning to say like the actual printing, the packaging? If you have the soft copy, I think it's fine, right?
Soft copy and you can search some
Mock-ups, it should be
on the
okay.
internet and you can download it.
But I mean, in terms of if you don't have any experience, as Brian did say previously, when you apply for senior year, you're already supposed to know the fundamentals and the basics of design. And in my case, when I came from my college, we were already taught how to do printing, packaging, and so on and so forth. For that, I think if you apply for a senior year, you need to already have the basic idea of design, because then if you don't, you're going to have a pretty hard time catching up to a lot of things here.
Yeah, that's why I think it's really important. I think you asked the right question. So I think don't force yourself to apply it. If you, for example, if you don't have a previous experience in design or in designing something, so because you can imagine that in the next 2 years you're asked to do a lot of design work, right? So I think we, especially for applying a senior place, we expect that you have a standard level of design experience, so that you are able to cope with a different design problem. And because every subject you will be asked to do a lot of design work. So I think if you have some sort of experience, it will be a benefit for you to, to cater or to manage a different design project.
Definitely. Last question. Wow. Sam, how did you respond about why you chose communication instead of advertising design? Whew. Well, I mean, for me, I was honest in some way. in some way. Wait, no. I was very honest. Basically, I said that yes, I could have taken advertising design, but then I said that I had sufficient, or I felt like I had sufficient knowledge of how advertising design is like, because I did study advertising design in space as well. And for me, as someone who's quite, who values the importance of social value and people, I chose to, I wanted to further own my skills in as a communication designer. And then they were like, then there's further more questions. They're like elaborating and telling me, oh, so as a third cultured kid, how can you use this aspect to design in communication design? But that's for another story. But unfortunately, guys, this is the end of this seminar. If you have any more questions, please don't hesitate to email us at sdmkt@polyu.edu.hk. And don't forget to follow our page and Twitter and Instagram account as well. Hopefully we get to see you soon. Thanks for joining us. Bye, guys.